Hey, what's up, guys? Node Investor here, bringing you an update to start the week off. Some things to note, some items to watch this week. During my last update at the start of last week, I was pointing out a bunch of continuation patterns, many of which, well, most of which all broke out and had some fantastic runs last week. And over the last couple of days, we've seen some healthy consolidation, some healthy pausing. And it looks like a lot of these names are ready to get going again. We're already seeing some smaller cap names moving out, moving higher. And so I will cover some names that I'm watching here, some things to keep an eye on going into the week, both on the upside and the downside. But taking a look at the coin market cap here, you can see the cryptocurrency market cap is at $400 billion. A lot of that here in the last couple of days has been pushed into that mark because of Bitcoin Cash, the incredible run it's had over the last several days and week, and continues to run here, but is getting a little bit extended. So I'll go into that. But you can see across the board, it's been sitting pretty tight here for the last few days. We saw Dash moving higher today and a few other names. But let's get to the charts. First, Bitcoin. Now, here is the 4-hour chart of Bitcoin, and you can see we've just been pausing and doing this very healthy consolidation for the last several days, just sitting tight. This range is starting to get very narrow. There is a clear overhead resistance right around 9K. A close above 9K would be a very good move, would show a decent breakout, especially if we had volume coming in. On the downside, you can see we've had this higher lows pattern starting to form, putting in a nice ascending triangle pattern on this 4-hour chart. And I expect this breakout to be imminent, either to the upside or the downside, but this pattern is getting very tight and very narrow. Meanwhile, many of the other alts are also putting in some bull pennants, some bull flags, some small cup and handle patterns. So we're seeing a lot of good continuation patterns out there, but I was expecting a little bit more of a pause and a pullback, to be honest with you. If you go to the daily chart here, I would have liked to see a little bit of a pullback, retest support around that $8,400, $8,500 mark. Also would have coincided with the 10 EMA on the daily, but this is fine too. This sideways action, this bull flag type of scenario, and we just continue to stair step our way higher. We pause to put some consolidation in place, and this is very healthy action. I would rather see the market do this than just shoot straight up, although the alts have basically been doing that for the last 2 weeks. But Bitcoin kind of doing this steady climb, steady gain is very healthy action, much more sustainable. And we're still right below this key resistance area that I've been watching for the last several days, this 9K to $9,100 zone, in and around there. It still needs to clear. The fact that we've ran right up to that and paused and just gone sideways here is very good action, very healthy. You can see on the daily chart, the volume has been declining. Now, the current daily bar still has plenty of time left to go, and so this could go either way. But on the downside, if it pulls in, as long as it stays above that $8,400 mark, that's, there's really nothing to worry about. It's a normal pause pullback. If we go deeper, I did tweet out this potential for an inverted head and shoulder pattern that could play out if we saw a deeper pullback. And so that's still potentially in the cards. We could see that. And so even if we break that support area and we started to pull back, we formed this big inverted head and shoulder pattern. This would be a very bullish, very strong bottoming formation that would set up for a nice run going into the May timeframe. So this is still a potential that's out here, but I'm looking for a breakout here in the near term. But just keep in mind that if we pull back, you may see a little bit of panic, a little bit of scare in the room, but one thing to note is if we pull back, depending on how deep this goes, and most likely it'd probably stop around 8K or so, but this would form a very nice right shoulder for a very strong bottoming formation. But it doesn't have to play out that way. We could just as easily stair step our way higher. But all in all, it's looking very strong, and the bulls continue to gain momentum. And I continue to believe the bottom is in. I've been talking about alt season here for a couple of weeks, and so far that continues to play out. Now let's look at a few other charts that I'm liking here. Now looking at Binance coin, BNB, this is the USD pair, and it has just continued to consolidate and really coil up, and this chart is getting very narrow. It's forming a very strong ascending triangle pattern. I'm really liking the setup here. The volume patterns have been very bullish. You see the accumulation signs as this plays out, and look for a close above that $14 mark. Above $14 mark, it could really move quickly. Next resistance level is around $16.50. I don't expect that to be a very big wall. I think this would probably shoot right past that if it broke out. $18 to $20 is the next target I'm looking at here, and that's a pretty strong move from current levels. That's about 30 to 50% or so. And so that's a nice setup that I'm watching here over the next week or so. I expect a breakout to be imminent on this one as well. And on the downside, clearly this trend line is support. So if it starts to get too much below that $12 area again, that could be a sign of a failed setup here. But all in all, this is pointing very strongly, very bullishly. If you go to the BNB pair on the Binance, on the Bitcoin chart, you can see here, I've been talking about, we paused around the old highs here, pulled back, forming a very nice handle. This handle also came right back to the 382 fib level here. I'm not showing it on the chart, but the fact that this bottomed out here, we zoom in a little bit, there was a little bit of a double bottom here with some bullish divergence on the RSI. You can see that's just really starting to rise here, and the volume patterns here are very strong as well, coming off of the lows. And so the Bitcoin chart is also confirming it. This is a big cup and handle pattern I'm seeing on the daily chart going back months. And so I'm expecting a breakout here. If it breaks out on the USD pair, look for it to break out here on the BTC side. And the first test will be the old highs. A break above that, we could see a very quick rally into new high territory. Dash is one of the strong names today here, just really moving higher. Had a nice little consolidation pause over the weekend. You can see here on the 4-hour chart, formed this really small but short cup and handle pattern, and then just really broke out and looking very strong here, having a decent move, one of the stronger movers today. Bitcoin Cash just continues to charge higher. I pointed this out last week when it broke above this little ascending triangle pattern here and just continues to march higher. There were some attempts to sell this one off, but the buyers just continue to show up here, and so far it's finding support along that ascending 10 EMA on the 4-hour chart. Now, I must point out, it is certainly reaching some overbought conditions on the daily chart. We're starting to see a little bit of divergence here on the RSI. Let me change the color there for you guys. And so caution should remain. I personally would not be chasing this one up here after this strong move that it's had. If you go to the daily chart, you can see the RSI is here at 80. Could it continue higher? Yes, but the risk is certainly much higher now after the big move that it's had over the last couple of days. Just look at how many green days in a row that is. And so on the USD pair, going into that $1,550 to $1,600 area, that's going to be the next really big resistance area. I expect to see some profit taking show up there. If it can pause just below that, could set up for another leg higher. So going into this zone from this point up until that $1,600 mark is the area to be keeping an eye on Bitcoin. NEO. Now looking at the NEO dollar pair here, there's a couple of things I'm watching. It's sitting right below this key resistance area. So it rallied right up. My target on this on the upside was $75. It paused right around $80, which was a good resistance point there. And now it's just sitting tight, letting this moving average catch up. So look for a potential breakout here on NEO above $80. That would set up for the next leg higher. The alternative pattern that I'm looking at here as well, similar to Bitcoin, if Bitcoin decides to pull back or if NEO decides to break from this uptrend, then we could see a pullback to around that $60 to $63 mark and then a move higher. This also would set up a very nice inverted head and shoulder pattern just below this resistance. So a little bit of a pullback here in this zone would be healthy, and then a breakout. If it pulls in a little bit deeper, then I will be looking for that inverted head and shoulder pattern to play out on. And I'll just quickly cycle through a few other setups that I'm watching here. There's plenty of names. I will do a live stream tomorrow and we'll go in much more detail into some of the lists that I have here, but just a few names to keep an eye on. ELF has been sitting tight here, setting up for another move higher here. Aeon had a strong rally out of resistance here, pausing a little bit, pulling back, needs it, but looking pretty good here. It rallied right up to just about the first target I was watching, but kind of pulling back here, seeing some good action here on some technical updates from their project, but one to keep an eye on in the next couple of days and weeks. Icon moving out of range here, looking like it wants to finally get going again. On the daily charts, looking very strong. Set up a very nice cup and handle pattern. It's just now breaking out. We'll be retesting this most recent high, but I expect it to clear that. That is a resistance area. You can see that first rally paused right around there. And so we're testing it again, but right now it's looking very strong. And so many of the other names are setting up little patterns like this. Here's Cardano, just had that strong rally and then just pausing for a few days here. And I'd like to see a little bit more pullback on some of these names. If you start to see a little bit of a bull flag type of setups, that would be very strong. Lumens, another one that's doing something similar here, looking good here, just a very quiet pause. Keep an eye for a break of this little downtrend pullback. It's been very healthy. Move higher would signal the next leg up. Ripple, another one that broke out last week. I was talking about 70 cents was that resistance area. Clearing above that would be very strong. We had a strong rally up to 92, putting in another similar pattern here. A little bit of a bull pennant, so one to keep an eye on. And finally, WAN, another one that has been strong and given us about a week and a half of pause and consolidation here, setting up a nice little bit of a pattern here at the highs. This one is right at new high territory, so a break higher would just continue the rally into new highs. And so there's just so many setups like this, guys. Good pauses, good continuation patterns. And so as long as these support levels hold, these moving averages, the most recent lows from the last couple of days, then these are setting up nicely. So going back to Bitcoin, guys, very strong all around, very bullish here, guys. I've not seen any kind of selling signals yet. So just keep an eye on the support levels, the moving averages. There's so many setups out there on the alts, but just be careful not to chase those ones that are very extended, overheated. A lot of these are just kind of rotating out. You'll see some move higher, some cycle through, and some will pause while other ones start to take off. And all around, very strong action in the alt market. And so we'll see how this plays out over the next week or so. So thanks for watching, guys. Just wanted to remind you guys, check out nodeinvestor.com if you haven't. Follow me on Twitter at nodeinvestor. I do have a link to some video courses. I've got a couple more that I'm about to publish, some advanced trading courses that some of you guys have been asking for, some indicator specific video courses, and a little bit of information I'll be posting here on my private group that I do manage. It opens up once a month, and so I'll be posting that here this week for the May round. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care, everyone.